Hey guys, what's going on? It's Riley for Real Takes. Just wanted to let you guys know a little bit of intro and some background on the episode that you are about to hear. So we recorded this episode, I believe it was like a week and a half ago now. And unfortunately, things kind of got busy. I had things going on. We recorded this episode when Max was in town. I was not able to get to edit it, and a lot of the things we talked about in the beginning part of this episode are now irrelevant. We talked about things like A Star is Born. We talked about our thoughts on the Vice trailer, which I did leave out. Maybe I'll be able to get Max and we can talk about that kind of stuff later in the day. But I also want you guys to know that because I had to cut out a lot of this that wasn't relevant at the time, want to let you guys know, stumbling on my words, that we had a buddy of ours, John, who you'll hear in the podcast episode here. We brought him in, and basically all we do is we just in this episode shoot the shit about Star Wars for about an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. It was a great time. We had some drinks. We were hanging out. Things fell off the rails a little bit at the end, so if there's some choppy editing on this episode, I apologize. There were times when the table was banged, some voices got loud. I had to cut elements of that out of the episode, but I think it's an enjoyable episode. And it's a really good discussion on Star Wars, and so we hope you guys enjoy this episode. Once again, it's a little bit hard to hear, I think, with all the talking and things like that at the end of the episode. So I'll just quick plug the things that we like to plug at the end of our episodes. So as always, you can listen to us on various podcast outlets such as Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker. Those are kind of the bigger ones that we are on. You can also go to anchor.fm and listen to us on there. We build our podcast with that site. Also, check out our Facebook page, Real Takes. Just go to Facebook and type Real Takes in, and I'm sure you'll find it. We don't have a Twitter, but you can follow Max and I on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Riley Granson, at Riley Granson, I should say. Also in the link, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's also in the link in the description here, as well as on our podcast feed in the description, as well as you can follow Max on Twitter as well, at Max Midland. Personal plugs, I'm doing a little bit of writing for comingsoon.net. If you guys want to check that out, just some top 10 lists, things like that, go ahead and check that out. Go to comingsoon.com. I talk a little bit about that. I'm sorry, comingsoon.net. I'm sorry. Check out that site as well. Some good stuff on there. Other than that, if you have any questions, want us to answer some questions, maybe that would be awesome. Answer some questions on the podcast. Just drop us an email at reeltakesinbox at gmail.com, reeltakesinbox at gmail.com. Check out my written review that I posted for First Man on reeltakes.com, but also check out my reviews. Max and I last week, we reviewed A Star is Born. I reviewed the new Netflix film Hold the Dark. I also reviewed First Man. I'm going to be posting a review for Bad Times at the El Royale as well, and some other things. So again, I apologize if this episode's very choppily edited or if the audio is a little harsh at sometimes. Again, we were having some drinks. We had a good time. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And with that being said, let's cue the music. Let's move on to what John is here for and what is
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, in-depth discussion. Why Jar Jar is actually a Sith Lord. Let's go.
You think Red Letter Media was good? This is going to be better. No, so we brought John in because the Star Wars fandom for the last...
they're freaks.
At least, has it been 3 years? Ever since they really rebooted it, has really fascinated me.
They're freaks.
So, I mean, just kind of give...
It's toxic is what it is.
It's so toxic.
So
and there's... So, really, this starts with The Force Awakens. And, we'll talk, too, about the movies. And I don't like to speculate as much as these guys do personally. But I'll indulge. But really, I just kind of want to start by talking about the fandom and how this has progressed into something
gross. Like I don't even want. It's almost to the point where it's like I don't even want to see these movies because I don't even want to know what these people are talking about when they're just yelling and screaming on social media about whatever and bullying, stars of the movies to the point where they have to quit social media because it's the racist garbage human beings that are. Anyway, I don't remember. I mean, it was only 3 years ago, but I don't remember. I remember a lot of the comparisons to Force Awakens was it's too much like A New Hope, which I do agree with parts of that. However, I think that was the smart play, personally, for me to reboot this franchise because you have to connect to multiple because the fandom is so expansive and it is so many people that grew up with this or they're just getting into it or there's so many aspects of Star Wars fandom, and I just kind of want to start with you guys, and I'll come across to John. When did you first come across Star Wars and just kind of the movies in general and that?
You know what? I just kind of grew up with them. Yeah. I remember, every Thanksgiving, it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas, they would play A New Hope on TV every year, and that's I think that's the first time I saw it, and I just I don't know I was under the age of 10 probably the first time I saw it, and I just ever since
it's fascinating to me because like the first Star Wars comes out in 1977 and then Empire 3 years later and then Jedi's 3 years after that.
83.
So it's so interesting to me that we grew up we were all born in the 90s. We grew up with these movies and they came out, the last one came out
9 years,
10 years, almost 10
years
before our time, and yet we still grew up with these movies, and that kind of shows the timelessness of it. And then, so personally, I think I came across it kind of the same way. I think I probably watched it with like my dad or something like that. I know we had the VHS tapes and then the DVDs, and then obviously we've changed the formats and everybody knows all the things about Lucas and him changing all these old movies, and you're very rare that you find the original editions anymore. And like everybody calling Star Wars a New Hope, which was added way later.
Yeah,
it was just Star Wars. Like that's the thing that's so fascinating too. And you just hear all these people, and to me, so I remember watching all the original movies, and then the immense hype. I was 8 years old. At the time, and we were all pretty much the same age, but I still to this day remember the enormous hype around the Phantom Menace in '99, and like just hearing and like you saw it was in the news, like it was a news piece. How often were movies back then news pieces? You didn't have the social media and all those things that kind of came with that. So I remember all the hype, and like people were going to see like Meet Joe Black just to watch the Phantom Menace trailer, and then leaving. Absolutely. That they were paying money. Like ticket money to go see Meet Joe Black, which is a very mediocre movie, and they weren't even seeing the movie. So like that would be like, but again, movie tickets were cheaper. But that would have been like us doing that now, where it's like $11 a ticket. So you're spending $11 to watch a trailer. So I guess that's why the internet is good. But no, and I remember the hype around that, and I remember obviously I think anybody our age at the time, we were 8, 9 years old. Anybody that saw that movie in theaters lost their fucking mind because it was awesome. And then you watch,
I was super excited for that movie when it came out. I thought it was awesome, and as a kid, I didn't realize how terrible it was.
Yeah, and then you watch it years later, and you keep watching it. You're like, this is awful, legitimately an
That's
awful,
exactly what happened. Years
movie.
later, I'm like, what? I rewatched. I'm like, this movie's so good. I watched it. I'm like,
and it's funny when you go back and you watch like video and interviews with people from the premiere of the Phantom Menace. When they come out, it's like their minds are blown. Like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, and this is unbelievable. And I've seen it 10 times now, and I just think it's the greatest thing ever.
Did not age well.
And I think that was largely because of the hype and the excitement.
Yeah. And
you can't deny that there were parts of that movie that were fantastic. The lightsaber duel is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. It was groundbreaking.
The Senate meetings
it's like,
and the politics.
I don't want to watch C-SPAN. Like I'm not watching Star Wars C-SPAN.
Motion number 5 in the Star Wars console.
Absolutely brutal. But it's interesting too because and obviously Attack of the Clones comes out and it's the same thing. Blew my mind. Thought it was awesome. Again, you watch it years later. I have spoken before on this podcast when we reviewed Solo about how I still think Revenge of the Sith is better than Solo. I have only seen Solo once. I'm sure that opinion is probably outdated, but I think there are awesome things about Revenge of the Sith for sure, and I think it took him 3 tries to get it right.
I think Revenge of the Sith is an underrated movie, and I
do
think it unfairly gets lumped in as just the prequels suck, and it's part of the prequels.
Well,
but it really is. I think I personally would rate Revenge of the Sith higher on my list of favorite Star Wars movies than even Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel that way as well.
Well, I think the biggest difference to me between like Solo and the third movie is that in Han Solo there's no bad actors.
No.
Hayden Christensen is unequivocally a terrible actor.
But there was even shades in rewatching Revenge. I haven't watched it in a couple of years. I plan on revisiting them all at some point this year because it has been a while since I've had a chance to sit down and really watch them all. But I remember there still being some shades of something with Hayden Christensen in the third one, particularly near the end of the film, and sort of, you can
They're much better when you cut out the love scenes, and Topher Grace has done that beautifully on YouTube.
Shout out to Topher Grace for making the prequels watchable. And what I think is interesting is when you come to modern day now, and you see interesting parallels kind of with The Force Awakens to The Phantom Menace. Obviously, The Force Awakens is leaps and bounds better than Phantom Menace. That's not up for discussion.
Right.
But what I mean is like, and maybe I'm off base here, but it feels to me like everybody saw Force Awakens, right? Biggest opening of all time, 240 or 50 million or whatever it made its opening weekend, and still to this day, what is it, the second, or maybe it's the top domestic grosser of all time in the United States, but it's in the $2 billion club. It's one of 4 films in the $2 billion club.
Right.
So that has that going for it. And I saw it, and I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it. And I think a lot of that had to do with the same thing that John was talking about, is the hype. Like, everybody was super hyped.
I was excited that a villain, Kylo Ren, actually had a cool voice, like a cool evil voice that fit him. Yeah.
And then I think the biggest thing with me was I went back and I saw it again in theaters. And I noticed more things, and I liked it a little bit more. And then I saw it again for a third time. Still liked it, so I saw it 3 times in theaters. And then I remember buying the Blu-ray, and I think you were living here at the time, John. We watched it, and I thought, this is okay.
It's just the more you watch it, the more that you see the flaws, because
for sure
you're less excited about it, and you can look at it more objectively.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm okay with the fan service though. I'm okay with the fan service.
And in the Star Wars universe, you have to have some fan service. That's just the way it is. I mean, a lot of these people, it's their, they love these movies. It's part of their. It's a cultural icon, and
Well, look at Solo. I mean, that's if you haven't seen Solo, what just don't listen to this podcast. Then come on, it's been out for a while.
I mean, it's been out for 8 months.
The Darth Maul reveal, that was totally fan service.
But the difference is that was still cool.
I don't think that served the story, though. I think that was just a cool thing for fans, and that's what I don't like about a lot of fans.
Because it was still cool. It wasn't poorly done. It was still cool.
No, it was cool for sure. But I think fan service is fine to me to some degree, as long as it's not distracting. And to me personally, that Darth Maul reveal in Solo took me out of the movie a little bit. Because I was like, well, whose movie is this?
They didn't need to put Darth Vader in. What was that one movie?
Rogue One?
Yeah.
Absolutely needed to put Darth Vader in Rogue One.
You didn't need to put him in there.
That's an awful take.
You didn't need. Why did you need to put him in there?
That's a freezing cold take.
Because the story revolves around that group of people risking their lives for the Death Star plans, and he's furious.
But we know what happens.
But he's furious that they got it back, so you get to see Darth Vader.
The scene's already in the next movie. He's already in there kicking ass.
That's not the point.
I loved it. I'm saying they didn't need to put it in there for the movie to be fine.
I think it was integral to that film.
I think the ending of Rogue One, with Darth Vader slicing and dicing in that hallway,
is brilliant.
Is one of the best scenes. Because
I agree.
You always hear you hear about the Jedi Purge, and you hear about what a badass he is, and he's the henchman for the Emperor, but you never really see that
shades
in the original
movies.
Yeah, you see shades of it. You see him killing his lieutenants and stuff, but you don't really see him be a badass. And this was our opportunity to see Darth Vader kicking ass, taking names, and slicing and dicing.
But that's the point, though. I loved it. Is that that's fan service?
Why are they allowed to explore that more, but they're not allowed to explore the Darth Maul character more?
But hold on, give me a second here. Darth Vader.
You talk a lot.
Darth Vader in that movie it's fan service, but it's integral to the plot of that film.
It's not integral to the plot. The
Yes,
movie's
it
over
is.
by that point.
But
he's overseeing the construction of the Death Star.
I get it, but what I'm saying is the movie's over. Everyone's dead.
And it's not just serving that single story though.
It's been out for a year and a half now. So.
It's serving the to set up. It's fan service in a way of deepening A New Hope in the beginning of that film, because
which
now
is fine. Again,
you watch A New
I
Hope
like
through
it.
an entirely different lens.
I like it.
Well, I think you're wrong by saying that it's all right. Fair enough.
But it wouldn't have ruined the film if it wasn't in there.
Anyway,
it wouldn't have.
I agree.
But it enhances the film.
I agree.
And what I'm saying is Darth Maul doesn't ruin Solo.
I didn't say he ruined it. I just said it took me out of it.
And I'm firmly on the side of Riley. When I first saw that,
it's cool. You're like, oh fuck yeah!
I recently purchased the Blu-ray. It came out last Tuesday. I watched it again. I only saw it once in theaters because it wasn't my favorite, and I wasn't.
And we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to talk about that.
And but the first time I watched it in theaters, I was like, you know what? I feel like he was just shoehorned in there, to have some sort of dramatic something,
Yeah.
And it really took me aback the first time, and I wasn't.
Took you aback?
I wasn't really a big fan of it.
Were you taken aback?
I was taken aback.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
But
I like a little bit of fan service.
I think we hear so many rumors about what's going to be next and who's going to get their movie, and I think that following up and doing a sequel, because I feel like Lucasfilm left that open to both ways. Because in a way, you could have a sequel because, obviously there's a relationship between Maul and Kira at the end of Solo.
And Darth Maul didn't die in Episode 1, contrary to popular belief.
What?
We're well past that.
Yeah.
Obviously Solo takes place after Episode 1.
I'm just saying in general.
Yes, but obviously there's a relationship between Kira and between Darth Maul.
Yeah,
that would be interesting to explore with Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
But they also, you could see that they were playing it cautiously because they killed off Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
And, they killed off Dryden Voss.
Yeah.
And so you're killing a lot of main characters, and it's clear that at the end of the movie, Han Solo and Chewbacca are probably done with that storyline because they're going to Tatooine to meet up with Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah. But let's talk about that though. Let's talk about the Solo movies. Not the Solo, but let's talk about the standalone movies, because The Force Awakens comes out, it kills, everybody likes it or loves it, whatever, it's past it. Then Rogue One comes out, which I thought was good the first time I watched it, and then John and I went and saw Solo, and then we came back, and then Max and I had recorded the podcast episode, and I re-listened to it, and one of the things I said was that before we reviewed it, I re-watched Rogue One and liked it immensely more the second time, because I had only seen it the first time in theaters. But that's neither here nor there. I personally, and I understand the fans wanting the standalone stuff. I understand wanting other stories. I don't need the standalone movies. And if you're going to do the standalone movies, I think you do it like Rogue One, where you introduce new characters with a familiar story, or you create new characters and a new story and somehow tie it in.
I'd like to see Order 66.
I agree, and I think this is the first.
You do see Order 66. Vengeance.
Not full on, though. that was a long period.
Yeah, but I think it'd be hard to explore something that already occurred in a film. Like, what are you going to... It's just that's too confusing, I think. I think the problem with Solo, for me personally, as I'm a casual Star Wars fan. I know a little bit more probably than a casual fan. Mm-hmm. I don't need Solo. I don't care. Like, why do we need... I don't need to see these old characters retreaded just because you want to make a bunch of money, which, ironically, it didn't make anything. They lost
I'd rather see that. I think my biggest problem with Rogue One is I felt the whole story was shoehorned. Because the fact that everyone dies was a last-minute thing. They shot alternate endings.
Tony Gilroy went into Lucasfilm and said it has to end this way.
I get it.
Everyone kind of has to die because you don't see any of those characters in A New Hope, obviously.
I completely get it, but it just kind of felt like shoehorned. And Saul Guerrero is terrible. That whole storyline was stupid.
I agree that part is...
the stuff with Vader and his base, that was cool. That was some cool backstory stuff.
But I think the deaths in that movie have meaning. It's not just...
They have weight.
They didn't just throw them in just to, to have people die. I think they threw it in because they knew story-wise it would have no stakes then. And that's one of my biggest problems with superhero movies.
Obviously, the characters aren't popping up anywhere else, so you can't just leave them open-ended.
And that's the problem with a lot of superhero movies is a lot of deaths and the different things that happen in these movies. There's no stakes. Mm-hmm. Because Avengers Infinity War. We know what happens at the end of Avengers Infinity War. Like,
we know they're coming back.
When that's the thing, like, there's another Spider-Man movie. That's
unless they don't, that'd be a big plot twist.
Let's try to save tangents because we're at like 42 minutes. And I don't want to make this like a 2-hour episode because we had already decided that people don't want to listen to a 2-hour podcast. Maybe they will about Star Wars. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
I will say this about Solo and how it did at the box office. I think Lucasfilm made a fatal error with Solo in having it 5 months, releasing it 5 months after The Last Jedi.
Blew it.
I think
absolutely
the reason that Solo tanked and did not do as well is not because it was a bad movie. It was a good movie, and it's
very fun
nobody knew about it. It was just kind of in the shadow of The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Their marketing campaign was pretty poor around it.
You didn't see a lot.
There was no hype. I think part of it was definitely because of the fallout to The Last Jedi and how many people didn't like The Last Jedi.
Well, and I think
if you were to
they didn't screen it very early either, which is always a bad indicator. I mean, obviously with the big saga films, they don't screen them super far in advance because they want to avoid getting spoilers out. But
and Lucasfilm had to know that The Last Jedi was going to be controversial, and that some people weren't going to like it. They had to know that, and they should have been able to predict that this might have an effect on how Solo does. Some consequences.
I think if you look,
it obviously has. They're axing all of their standalone movies.
If you look, I think the fandom really started to turn on George Lucas after the Phantom Menace, because the vitriol that comes out of these fans, and that's what gets me since we've been talking about fandom is these people act like they're entitled, like Star Wars is theirs. Like at the end of the day, George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan, they're the ones that invented Star Wars. They made the universe. They are Star Wars. And so the prequels may have sucked, but that's George Lucas's thing. He's Star Wars.
I think
it's not the fan Star Wars. It's George Lucas's vision.
But
he's a shitty filmmaker.
These are movies designed to. And George Lucas has always been a rebellious filmmaker, where he doesn't care. He's going to make the movie that he wants to make, and that's he.
I think the fatal flaw of the prequels is not the storytelling. I mean, it is, but it's not. I think the reason why the original trilogy is successful is because after the first one, George Lucas stepped back and he let 2 other people direct his stories. And I think the director and the voice makes all the difference. So I think what happened, in my opinion, you look at The Phantom Menace, there's no structure to this, by the way.
It's fine. It's fine. It's a Star Wars discussion.
I think when you look at the prequels, you have The Phantom Menace, which is objectively awful. And I think if George Lucas really cared and really wanted to make a solid trilogy, and I do believe he believes he was making good movies. I mean, I don't think any director makes a movie and they're like, "Oh, this thing's a piece of shit."
Well, but I have seen some documentaries and some different things about the making of like the Phantom Menace and the prequels, and I think they were aware that when this movie was released that it was not going to be.
But then that's on the studios though. Hold on. That's on the studios though too, because why not let if you're Lucas and if you're the people producing these movies, why not? If you're Lucas, just take a step back. Let somebody else do the next 2.
He's too big of an egomaniac to do that. The thing that Lucas should have done, he should have found a good director. He should have said, "This is what I want out of these movies. This is what I want to see. You do it the way you see fit, but this is the storyline I want to see. This is the character development I want to see. This is what I want to see happen. You do it the way you see fit as a good director."
And he shouldn't have done casting.
Well, yeah. Hayden Christensen's about the worst choice for anything.
I think it would have been interesting to see. I would just be curious to see what Leo would have done in that role. I think that's a super fascinating story.
There's no way it could have been worse.
And honestly, I don't think Ewan McGregor is fantastic in that role either.
I think he's great.
I think that's the best thing about him. He's the savior of the prequels.
He is, but I mean, he's not a fantastic actor in that movie either. He's come into his own.
Well, and Natalie Portman too in the years since has come out and said that she had no idea. The problem with the
Phantom Menace is there is no main character. You've got 8 storylines, and they all kind of converge in the end. And there's 4 major battle scenes going on at the end that you're jumping back and it's there's no flow to the movie.
With the originals too, I mean, you've got Han and Leia, you've got the love story, but it's not like an in-your-face love story. Whereas Padme and Anakin, it's like
forced.
I want to throw up. Like this is incest. This is Game of Thrones. This is really weird. Whereas, Han and Leia, it's just there. It's part of the story. It's natural. But Padme and Anakin, it's like forced and it's weird, and Hayden's really creepy, and it's just it doesn't work.
Well, the other thing too about the original movies is the original movie too was really a renaissance of sorts for science fiction, because you had, obviously
I would say it's a renaissance.
Well, it absolutely was,
because a shot into the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you take a lot of the sci-fi films from that era, and you compare them to Star Wars, and what Lucas did is he took an auteur vision of a movie that would succeed in a non-science fiction if it was just an action movie, but he set it in space, and I think that was the biggest reason why people liked it, is because it was that familiar indie movie plot, or blockbuster movie plot, or even an Oscar winning type. I mean, it was nominated for several Oscars, but he took that sort of movie plot and he put it in a sci-fi setting, and that's what was so revolutionary about those movies. And that's why when they were filming that movie, I feel like on set they were like, well, this isn't going to work. Nobody's going to come see a love story or a family saga in space. It's very much a family film.
Do you think that the original Star Wars movies are viewed with rosier colored glasses than they should?
No.
Because the first and third movies are basically the same movie.
No, I don't think they're looked at with rose-colored glasses.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think fans are too lenient to them as opposed to the modern movies?
No, because I think...
Considering that the plot of the third one was, there's a second Death Star? Oh my god!
Sure, I mean, but at
that
these
little
point,
bear things.
But you're talking about old Hollywood, though, there, too, because it's like, we made one, they had no plans of making two more, as far as I know.
George Lucas did.
Well, sure, but they didn't know it was going to be the massive success it was going to be. I mean, Harrison Ford was literally telling Lucas, kill me off. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do another one. Like, he's been trying to get killed off for years. But then Empire comes out, and it's a legitimately great movie. It's not just a great sci-fi movie. It's not just a great action film. It's a great film.
And when George Lucas wrote Star Wars, before it became what it was.
A lot of Lawrence Kasdan in there.
No, I mean,
Lawrence Kasdan came in later.
Lucas had the idea because he based it off Valerian, the comic series Valerian.
I thought he was right from the beginning.
Well, he had a lot of influences. Buck Rogers and A Space Odyssey. Yeah. But anyway, when he wrote Star Wars, he wrote the whole story and realized I can't do this in one movie. I mean, he wrote the prequels,
like Lord of the Rings.
He wrote the original, and it was all supposed to be in one movie. And he's like, I can't do this in one movie.
Yeah.
So he jumped to one spot and he worked from there. So his plan was to always do sequels from the beginning.
See, this
obviously,
is why
if the first one was to bomb. And you can see that because George Lucas, when he went and got the TV or the movie contract with Fox, for A New Hope, he got all the merchandising rights.
Yeah,
he did all that. He did all the publishing. He did all the merchandising rights. So he got that. He hedged his bet there, and like, this is going to be a hit, and I'm going to be able to make more movies, and I'm going to be able to sell action figures and T-shirts, and so I mean, he did have a plan.
Yeah,
a lot of people didn't. He was probably the only person on Earth that believed in the plan at the time, but it was a plan.
Well, it's funny that you bring up, because that kind of proves my point too. It's funny that you bring up 2001, Space Odyssey, because, I mean, nobody was doing what Kubrick did with that movie. I mean, that movie comes out in 1968. That's one of my favorite films of all time. I'm very steeped in that movie. And before Star Wars, that's your sci-fi. I mean, to this day,
the pinnacle of sci-fi.
In my personal opinion, it still is the pinnacle of sci-fi. I think it's the greatest science fiction film of all time. Mostly because I would throw Star Wars in the fantasy realm. It just happens to take place in space.
You've never seen Alien vs. Predator?
Alien vs. Predator. Jesus Christ, The Predator is awful, by the way. I forgot to tell you.
I haven't seen it yet.
That's terrible. Well, it's not terrible. It's Well, anyway.
Yeah, I've heard.
To me, 2001, like I said, is still the pinnacle sci-fi film. But then, Star Wars comes along, and it's the first time, because, that's a 10-year difference. You don't have anything really in that time span of, between 68 and 77 of something like 2001. And then Star Wars comes out, and it's not better than 2001, I don't think, but it's like that. And then this movie sets off a path of movies like Alien and Predator and all these sci-fi movies that tell these big kind of, well, maybe not Predators, but Alien for sure, that kind of tells this big sweeping complex story. So that's what fascinates me about the original film.
I think he made sci-fi cool again.
For sure, and
or in general.
I would say he made sci-fi narratively interesting. Again, it's not just
Star Trek was after Star Wars, right?
Star Trek premiered, I want to say, in 75?
I want to say Star Trek
60 maybe?
Was before.
Because growing up, that was always like,
I think the original
Brady
Star
and
Treks were in
Manning
the
and
60s.
Tiger and Phil.
I think you're right.
Star
I think it's like
Trek,
69. I'll look it up. 1966.
Shatner's like 100 now.
1966 to 1969. So Star Trek does come first, and that tells a lot of complex sci-fi stories too. But Star Wars for sure is I think more so than Star Trek. Not only because you have your Trekkies and all that, but Star Wars is such a pop culture phenomenon. In my opinion, more so than Star Trek.
Well, absolutely.
But again, Star Wars
Star Trek was more of a TV show.
Yeah, and then they made the movies. They didn't make a movie till 78 or 79, and those were well received for the most part. So, maybe with the exception of a couple of those Star Trek movies, which I haven't seen all of them, but let's move on. Let's talk about the real thing that has created this toxicity. And you mentioned earlier, John, when you said they had to have known that The Last Jedi was going to be controversial. Why? I don't think there was anything controversial about that movie. I think it was
the fans
straightforward.
They overthink it, and they think they know what's best for the franchise. They think, no one wants to be surprised anymore. They want it to be what they were thinking the whole time.
And I guess I will say this.
I thought the thing with Luke was brilliant.
And I will say this. I do think it appeals to me more personally, the storytelling of it, because, and again, spoilers for The Last Jedi, if you're one of the two idiots who live under a rock who haven't seen it yet. I think the stuff with Rey's parents is brilliant. I think the stuff with Luke is brilliant. And to me personally, as a fan of film, because obviously these aren't the movies I'm going to run to and say they're my favorite movies of all time, but on a pure storytelling level, that is brilliant, in my opinion.
I think The Last Jedi is a brilliant movie.
Yeah.
And I'm firmly on this.
It has its flaws, but I like
every
it.
movie has its flaws. Obviously, the casino city, but that whole thing was...
That's objectively a stupid plot.
To me, though,
just be deleted.
The biggest flaw to me is wasting the best actor in the movie, Benicio del Toro.
Well, I mean,
they wasted his character.
Maybe there's plans for the future.
We might.
They haven't announced an episode 9 casting yet, but you never know.
You get someone of Benicio del Toro's acting, degree, and that's what you're using him as.
I do agree with that. For sure.
I was disappointed because when they revealed that he was going to be in it, I was like, oh, that's cool. What the hell? What's he going to do?
Okay, but
you could say the same thing about Laura Dern.
That's fine. Yes, you're right. And I didn't hate her character as much as
I didn't hate it either, but she's wasted.
But okay, but we were talking about the fandom and making what's her name?
Ray.
No, the Asian woman.
Kelly Marie Tran.
They made her delete her social media and stuff because they attacked her for fucking taking a job and being a character.
Right.
She doesn't write the script.
Right.
That's like when they ruined the guy that played Jar Jar Binks' career. That he's gone on interviews. He said, he
almost committed suicide. Like several times.
What the fuck are you doing as a person?
And the thing is, for me, it's like I have yet to legitimately. And I don't listen to a lot of. I know you do the Collider Jedi Council thing.
I haven't watched it a lot recently, but I used to.
But those guys are they know their shit, and they I think if I were to listen to that, I would probably hear some solid.
Well, I don't think there's a person on Earth who knows more about Star Wars than Christian Horner.
Well,
George Lucas.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my thing is that I have yet to hear anybody intelligently tell me why they don't like The Last Jedi. Yeah. All they'll say is that they set up all this stuff and they didn't pay it off. Why do you need it paid off? Maybe that's part of the bigger plan.
Yeah. And I would put money on this. I think, and I don't know if this was part of the original plan or not, but in episode 9, we're going to figure out who Rey's parents are, and they're not going to be junk traders.
Jesus Christ, John. I thought we brought you on here for hot takes, not obvious takes.
That leads me to this question.
And I don't know if that was the original plan or if that's going to be Lucasfilm's attempt to.
Let me ask
obviously J.J. Abrams is taking over again.
Traders.
Let me ask John. Let me ask John 2 questions that I'm dying to know your answers to. Number 1, are you nervous about? Are you nervous about J.J. taking over 9? And do you think Kathleen Kennedy is the right person to lead this ship?
Well, she will be leading the ship for another 3
years. I saw that she was extended. Her contract was extended.
You know what? I think personally that Kathleen Kennedy is too overbearing.
Oh, you see it with Solo.
Absolutely. As far as the inner workings of the dynamics of how things are working at Lucasfilm and the creativity department and writing scripts, that. We can only conjecture. Nobody really knows what's going on there. Nobody really knows, what she's like and how she works with the directors. And obviously, she had a problem with the Solo directors. I can't think of their name. The ones that
Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Why couldn't that have been a funny movie?
Well, let's talk about that for a second too, and then we can go back to that. Overbearing, I think, is the right word, because if we talked a little bit about it when we did Solo, for anybody who does regularly listen to this, but so it was my understanding from reading all the material and things like that, things on the set was too improvisational for her, because you look at what these two guys have done. They directed the Jump Street movies, for Christ's sake.
That's like hiring Chevy Chase and be like, why is this guy so bald and fat? Well, you know what you're getting.
Exactly, and that's what bugged me about the news, because we had a little bit of heated debates within our group text conversation about this. I think you were on the side of Kathleen Kennedy, and I said you knew what you were getting with these guys. So if you didn't want them to let the actors improvise, and you didn't want it to be a straight up kind of screwball comedy, which I think would have worked well for Solo, why did you hire them? You've seen their movies. You've seen the Jump Street movies. It's stupid comedy.
My guess is that they obviously had some sort of obviously had some sort of agreement where Kathleen Kennedy is like, we want this movie to be fun. We want it to be a little more lighthearted, maybe have a little more comedic value than Star Wars movies past. So we're gonna get a director that somewhat kind of fits that mold and has notoriety. And I feel like
they expected them to play ball,
and they probably took it a little too far, and things could not be reconciled.
If they're not making penis and poop jokes, if it's intelligent humor, Superbad, not Superbad, excuse me. What did they direct?
It's Jump Street.
Yeah, Jump Street. Excuse me. Yes, that's what I was thinking. I've had a couple of drinks tonight. That's not lowbrow humor.
No, it's intelligent comedy for sure. It's self-aware comedy, and I think they would have brought an interesting dynamic to it. I think
Solo. You know what? Okay, A Force Awakens. That's not the right avenue for that type of humor and that kind of thing. But look at Rogue One. Rogue One is a very militaristic, dark, aggressive movie. That's different from all the Star Wars movies. Yeah. Why couldn't Solo be a funny comedy?
And I think that's
the perfect type of movie to do it in, a standalone movie.
I think that is the most intelligent criticism of The Last Jedi, is that a lot of that humor in that movie doesn't work, and it undercuts. I think it's funny personally, and I think I do think it does add to the movie, and it's a clever way. Well, let's take this for example. In the beginning of the film, obviously, you have a very light comedic moments between Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac, and General Hux, Donald Gleason. That works for me because that's establishing the stakes and really the uselessness of General Hux, because he is a pawn in the game. Yeah. That's obvious, and I love that was set up that way. But I can see how somebody watching that movie wants it to be dramatic, because Empire Strikes Back is dark. That's the darkest movie of that trilogy for sure. And I think people wanted it to be Empire Strikes Back because they love Force Awakens so much, because it was so much like A New Hope.
Force Awakens was very dark.
Well, not really. It was a pretty...
They executed an entire village of people, Riley.
I understand, but that's not unprecedented. It's not unprecedented.
It is unprecedented. The Stormtroopers haven't hit a fucking thing. All of a sudden, they're executing a whole village.
They needed to do that though to set the tone for what the First Order was.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, I personally think in that moment the humor works because it sets up it sets up the stakes of that character, and that that this guy is literally a joke, and you see Kylo Ren come full circle, maybe not full circle quite yet, but you see that character develop that much more because you can juxtapose Kylo, who instantly becomes a badass, right? Like he instantly becomes this intense, you don't fuck with this guy now. And we get that now, and then you compare him to General Hux, and it's like, well, this guy's a fucking clown. We know who's in charge. And I thought that way, I thought the comedy worked to establish that.
I think the way that they handled Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi was absolutely perfect.
I do too.
I love that, you got in the original trilogy, you've got the bad guy, right? Darth Vader.
Yep.
He's the bad guy. He's just all things in evil. He's always been evil. He's an asshole. That's Darth Vader. He's the epitome of evil. And then in the original trilogy, you've got the Darth Sidious or Chancellor Palpatine. He's just evil. There's nothing about him that's not evil. What I like about what they've done with Kylo Ren is he's conflicted and he's vulnerable.
Yeah, and you don't get
you see that, and you see that in his character development.
You don't get the conflicted nature of Vader until Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, until the very end.
It's just like dark, and then at the very last minute he's redeemed.
Exactly.
So yeah, and that's why I think the humor largely works in that movie. So I think, but I do understand somebody watching that movie and being like, this is stupid. Like, I don't understand why they're injecting this screwball comedy into this moment. And I think to some fans that was Rian Johnson not treating the property with the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
But I don't see it that way, and I think just the way, and we can get into this a little bit now, the way that the fans have responded to this, I think is atrocious, and I think it's the worst of people who are coming into this scenario, who watch this movie, and they just it's not what they wanted. It's not the movie they wanted. They don't think it's good, so they have to pretend like they're mad because Rian Johnson ruined Star Wars. He ruined my Star Wars. This isn't my Star Wars. And I think chief among those criticisms that fans are stupidly upset about is the way that Luke Skywalker is handled, not only in this film, but I think so far in this new trilogy.
Why, though? Why?
Well, that's my point.
You don't know a thing about Luke Skywalker.
But that's my point, is that why are you mad about something that they could take it anywhere? Does that make sense?
I thought it was well explained what happened. I'm glad they went back and showed, Kylo Ren's version of what happened versus Luke Skywalker's version of what happened.
Yeah.
And also, hot take, I was getting myself a drink, so I missed the discussion, but I think that Snoke ended up being just a pointless character.
But I think that's brilliant because we were just talking about how that establishes the power that Kylo Ren
I think that pissed
possesses.
a lot of people off, though. They thought he was Darth Plagueis. They thought he was this. They thought he was that, and they were wrong.
And that's it.
But that's the thing, is a lot of these fanboys can't handle that they were wrong. Well, that would be this. This is stupid now. I had a good idea.
That's just people being closed-minded and just you can't. There's nothing you can do about that.
I agree.
And I think the whole lightsaber over the shoulder thing in the first bit of the movie.
Hot take. That was the best. That was the best fight scene in any Star Wars movie ever.
What?
With Kylo and Rey.
That's not what he was talking about, though.
I'm just saying in
Where
general.
you been?
Hot take.
I think you need to slow down.
I've had a couple drinks. I'm just saying, best lightsaber scene ever.
But getting back to your point.
But I think it definitely alludes to the entire rest of the movie, because it's like, you know what? Here's what you think is going to happen. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I
like that though. See, and I think that's smart. Like, I think that's an interesting way to deal with it. And I don't know. Fans just need to deal with the fact that it's not their Star Wars.
And the issue is, and what the fandom doesn't understand is that Lucasfilm can't just keep making these feel-good fan service movies forever. Eventually, they have to go somewhere else if this is going to progress, if this is going to move into anything. You can't just keep rehashing and fan service. And the same characters.
Well, that stuff with Luke was very unique. I mean, so you got all these Force ghosts, and they talk about doing all this Force stuff, and I thought Luke, the Luke thing was very unique.
Well, and I do like, just kind of not as a super fan, because I don't understand the minutia of his ability to astrally project, or whatever it's called, at the end of the Last Jedi. I like that, because I like that it shows, no, this is the guy right now. This is the most powerful Jedi, and I like that they established that. And people were mad because they thought he was going to die honorably. He does fucking die honorably. That literally kills him.
To me,
and he does it for the most heroic reason anybody can do it, is to save the people he loves and the people he cares about, particularly Leia, and obviously Rey, who he's obviously become attached to through quote unquote training her.
And I think one of my bigger flaws with the movie, and it's not a huge thing, I guess, but I thought the whole thing with Rey and the dark side was very forced. I mean, really, she was never really tempted to go to the dark side. There was nothing that I wish I would have liked to see her. And I'm a big proponent of just smashing the norm. I would have loved to see Rey go to the dark side. That'd have been awesome.
That's not gonna happen.
I realize that, but I would have liked to see her get a little more tempted. Because that breaks up the monotony, and it's not what you expect.
But I think
her and Kylo Ren just fucking shit up.
I think her character though is developed enough to the point where even through even 2 movies that it makes sense that she wouldn't go to the dark side. Because, look at the way she reacts to finding out who Han Solo is in the first film. She knows who he is because he's a legend.
She's a fanboy.
And she gets it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Not my Han Solo. And she understands the gravity of the situation that those... it's clearly established in Force Awakens, and this is one of the things I really do like about it, through all the characters, is that it's clearly established what the rebellion meant. And the stakes and the danger that the rebellion went to blow up 2 Death Stars.
Here's the deal.
You know what I mean?
What about this though? Okay, so the first 3 movies are about Luke's journey.
Correct.
What if these are about Kylo Ren's journey and not about Rey? Because I think if you look at his character development, overall from being killing his father to finding out this backstory about all this stuff with Luke, I think he has a more important character arc to this point than Rey does.
Yes.
I would agree.
I don't think it's out of the question to say that this is more about Kylo Ren's journey.
However,
you know what I mean?
I agree with you for sure, but I personally would throw Rey in there. I think it's very much a story about both of them.
And I don't have a problem with her parents being junk traders.
Nobody does. They're just
mad.
I don't either. They're just mad because they spent 2 years speculating. This is why speculation is stupid.
But you know what? How pissed would you guys be if all of a sudden it came out, oh, she's a Skywalker, like we guessed?
Yeah.
I think that'd be stupid.
I think that would have been really cheap.
Yeah,
I agree. It would cheapen everything. I like her parents being junk traded because she came from nothing. She is garbage. She's literal garbage.
Yeah.
No, but you
came from nothing.
She's trading garbage.
You'll always be nothing. You know what I mean, though?
And that goes back to the question you asked me a little while ago about what I think about Episode 9, and if I think JJ's going to ruin it. And I don't think he's going to ruin it.
Well, I didn't say ruin it. I said, are you nervous about him maybe retconning things you liked about the last Jedi?
I think that JJ is going to play it safe the way he did in The Force Awakens.
I agree.
I don't think you're going to see obviously as risky a movie because obviously it didn't pan out for Lucasfilm.
Yeah. Well, let's transition. Let's wrap it up with this because we are going.
Let's not wrap it up. Let's continue to go. Our fans, it's Star Wars. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I mean
the drinks are flowing for me.
Well, then let's transition into this. Let's talk about the future because, and again, speculation is running wild as to what's going to happen. And me personally, I don't want to see him revert to, oh, she's a Skywalker, she's a Kenobi, she's a this, she's a that, she's Solo's daughter.
She's a Darth Maul.
She could be any myriad of things. Maybe she's Kira's daughter. I don't know. But to me, and that's the other thing that I'm conflicted with Solo is like,
how is she gonna be a Skywalker?
Kira seems like it seems to me they put Kira in that film. Not only as a love interest to Solo, but just the way that movie wraps up with the Darth Maul scene. There's something bigger, and there's something that's going to tie in, because I don't think Disney, with the way that everything is going with movies and big franchises, that everything's tied together, I think Kira or her bloodline is going to play an important role. Maybe not 9, but maybe going forward.
That'd be pretty shoehorned in, though, don't you think?
No, I don't think so, because I think they well, maybe. But maybe to the outsider, but they're clearly they're not just making Solo because fans wanted to see a Han Solo movie. There's clearly aspirations to tie different things together.
Tell you what, I would love to see a movie exploring Darth Vader's apprentice. What was her name, John? Ahsoka. I would love to see something like
that is explored a lot
in
Rebels.
In Rebels. I get that.
And I personally haven't watched Rebels. I know
watched
she's
a little
character,
bit, but it's a really interesting storyline because I think it shapes who Vader is. You know, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Order 66 addressed in depth.
I actually think she's in Clone Wars, not Rebels.
Kira?
Yeah, you're right.
No, Ahsoka.
Okay.
Yeah, Ahsoka Connor, whatever.
Have you seen the animated Clone Wars movie? That was technically theatrically released, so I guess it does count.
It's hard to keep track of what's canon now.
It's all canon.
Everything's canon.
Clone Wars and Rebels.
Is it?
Canon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think everything but EU is
all
extended
all
universe
the books,
canon.
the books,
and the Knights of the Old Republic is also
right. All of that stuff is not canon.
Also, what happened to
the current?
What happened to the Knights of Ren?
The current books.
Well, I think I think that question will probably be answered enough.
I feel like Kyle is like, oh, I'm the Knights of Ren, but like I'm the only one.
I think maybe, and again, I have to. I've only
where
seen
are these other dudes at?
My fatal flaw is I've only seen Last Jedi once, so I have not had a chance to go back and actually rewatch that movie. And I know, isn't that scene where him and Rey kick ass with all that awesome.
The best lightsaber.
The red, you know,
the red guards,
the Praetorian guards.
I thought that had something to do with the Knights, or maybe not. Maybe I don't know.
No, that was
again.
Snoke.
I've only
those
I saw
are just Snoke's guards.
That was the coolest lightsaber battle I've ever seen.
I saw it opening night when it came out last year, and I haven't seen it since.
That was fucking cool.
It for sure.
It was cool. You know, but yeah, and that whole thing with the dreams and the talking to each other,
shirtless Kylo Ren.
It was a little too laissez-faire. Like, oh hey, what up? What's going on? I'm on the dark side.
Laissez-faire, what?
That's like economics.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Watch another Moscow Mule. Jesus Christ, laissez-faire? That is literally like an old school like that. You read that little like Revolutionary War era America.
Laissez-faire, a policy or attitude of letting things take their own course without interfering.
We just got schooled.
Well, I mean, it's generally associated with economics.
I would agree. Yeah, so, I would agree that it's definitely not
Star Wars. Moving on from this.
But no,
I'm just saying. I just didn't. I had a problem with that. The whole Snoke's manipulating, and then fuck you, we killed you.
But again, I think all of that was to establish the true power that Kylo Ren has,
and the conflict that he has.
Correct. Yeah, and there is this more so than with Vader, like we were talking about. More so with Vader, there is that pull to the light, and he wants Rey to join him on the dark side. But then he still somehow is attached to her.
Well, I think,
and that's why I think he hasn't gone fully dark. And I think, unfortunately, getting back to our conversation about going towards the future of what they're going to do. If I had to speculate, I think unfortunately Kylo Ren will pull to the light, and I think they'll finish the trilogy on the same note that Jedi finished the original. And I think
I would like to see it not do that.
I agree 100%, but I think JJ and with the fan reaction and the toxicity that has come about, they're going to do whatever because Kathleen Kennedy obviously has done a great job setting up, picking good filmmakers and all this stuff, and they obviously have more ambitions. I think she's fine. But I think now, after this reaction that has had after The Last Jedi, in my opinion, and I can't wait to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong. I think ruin is not the right word. I think JJ is going to reverse it, and I think they're going to go to the more fan-friendly version of redeeming Kylo
Absolutely.
Ren.
But I think the thing with Kylo Ren, though, is I think his character development has been such that it could go either way. He could end up being consumed by the darkness and being killed in this pursuit of greatness, or he could come back to the light. I think his character development has lent him to either or because he's shown compassion towards Rey.
Yeah.
He's killed his father, so he's ultimately conflicted, but I could see it going either way at this point.
Story-wise, I think that's a great idea to kill him. However, I really don't think they will for a simple movie-related universe. Adam Driver's star is rising very quickly.
It is.
So I think they want to be able to probably hold on to his. They want to sign him to these, like Marvel's been doing.
Well, I mean, you could do something. You could do something crazy, and he could do something, and he's still around. He converts to the light. Or I want to see something other than Rey defeating Kylo Ren.
I guess. Yeah, I guess this would be more geared towards John. I don't know. Maybe you follow it, but what is the hottest speculation right now about? Because I don't follow it. I just want to see the movie, and that's fine. But what is the hottest speculation right now about Episode 9?
There's very little speculation at this point.
Well, that's what I figured, but I didn't know.
There's obviously been no leaks, and at this point, anything that anybody says is just conjecture. So,
do you think Kerry Russell is Rey's mom?
Kerry Russell hasn't even been confirmed yet.
Well, they were still working on the deal, but they said it was going to happen.
I think that J.J. Abrams is going to revert back to a lot of the things in Force Awakens, and I think a lot of the things from The Last Jedi are going to.
I don't think so.
Your boy Dominic
I don't
Monaghan
think so.
is gonna
I don't think so. Because how easy would it have been to be a cop out on Lost and make an ending that everyone would have loved?
This is different.
I'm just saying, J.J. Abrams is not someone that has a track record of
Lost is not a 4-decade-long pop culture phenomenon.
I'm just saying, J.J. Abrams doesn't have a history of going with the grain.
Well, he did in the
J.J. Abrams could as easily just say, fuck the fandom, we're going to do what's best for the franchise.
This is my problem with Kathleen Kennedy, is because it's like, it's not dictatorship, but it seems to me that she's a play ball or we'll fire you.
But you know what?
And obviously, Lord and Miller didn't play ball.
Who's been there long?
Hold on a minute, though.
Who's been there longer than Kathleen Kennedy?
Gareth Edwards didn't play ball on Rogue One. He got to keep his director credit, and he ultimately, played ball because he's a young director and he wants to make more films probably and make good money. Because they pay these guys good. They can go do their indie movies, but at the same time, so to me, Kathleen Kennedy, I think to give my opinion on the question I posed to John earlier. Do you think Kathleen Kennedy is the right person? I don't think she's the right person to run this.
The thing about Kathleen Kennedy,
she's all or nothing. You're with us or you're against us.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but she is not a Disney insert. She has been with Lucasfilm far longer than the takeover.
She's been with Spielberg and different. She produced a lot of Spielberg's films.
But she's been with Lucasfilm since before.
I believe she was hired by Disney when they acquired Lucasfilm.
I thought she was there before that.
No, she's a Disney insert.
Is she? I thought she was there before that.
She was not part of Lucasfilm.
We can look it up, but I believe Iger hired her to oversee the feature film.
I could be wrong. I thought she was with Lucasfilm before that, but I could be wrong.
But and the other thing we can go back to is obviously they have higher ambitions to do various things because now they have this still confirmed Rian Johnson trilogy of films. They haven't said no. They've got this Benioff and Weiss, obviously the Game of Thrones guys. They got those guys tied up to do something with feature films. They got this Favreau show coming out on the Disney streaming service. And that's why
you're right. She was a Disney.
I was shocked when they decided to keep Kathleen Kennedy around because Iger came out and admitted the May release date for Solo was a mistake.
It was a huge mistake.
And she, from what I have read, and again, it's all Hollywood speculation. We don't know what's true. We don't know what's not. But for me, it was Kathleen Kennedy was a major driving force behind wanting to get it out in May because it was originally scheduled for May. And then when Lord and Miller got fired, that was bad PR for her because of the way she was portrayed in the whole situation. That she didn't. What was one of the quotes? She didn't like the way that they folded their socks. Whatever it was.
I was wrong. She was the co-chair of Lucasfilm with George Lucas, and when it was sold to Disney, she became president.
Okay.
And Kathleen,
so she was, but she wasn't.
I will give Kathleen Kennedy the benefit of the doubt. She is one of the most successful producers of recent memory.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing.
On a straight up selfish note, because I'm more of a comic book guy than Star Wars, I would love to see what Kevin Feige would do with the Star Wars universe. I think he'd inject a lot of different interesting things to it. But that's neither here nor there.
I'd love to have George Lucas back. In the role of, here's what I want to see. You do it the way you want.
I think he...
Because at the end of the day, what pisses me off about the fanboys is that, again, at the end of the day, George Lucas is Star Wars. That's like trying to make Lord of the Rings without Tolkien. It is his
Peter Jackson made Lord of the Rings without Tolkien.
But not really, though. He went off the books. He was very religious to the books. I'm a Star Wars I'm a Lord of the Rings fanboy.
I guess
what I'm saying is, if George Lucas was still the brains behind everything, but just said to a more talented director, said, hey, this is what the storyline's going to be. I want you to portray this.
Well, I've got to think he's a consultant. I gotta think they consult with him.
He's consulted on.
But he's a consultant in a way, though. They can still say, "Well, fuck you, George."
But I think they would have to consult with him
because consultant.
Because you could go to him. There's still original trilogy characters in these movies, so they can go to him.
If they were smart, they would go to him.
What is Han doing in this situation?
If they were smart, they would go to him.
Well, I'm sure they have.
They have. He was hired.
I mean, they own his fucking company.
Yeah, but if you looked at his comments after The Last Jedi, his comments do not indicate that he was, consulted in the final process.
Well, of course not. It's not his anymore. He sold the company.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. I'm saying. So you're saying that they would actually benefit from having George Lucas involved in the creative process.
I think they would benefit from it, but you have to
completely disagree with that.
You have to take it from the perspective he's not directing, he's not casting. He's not doing this, but he is the one that has
developed. Isn't that what a consultant does, though?
You're contradicting yourself. You're saying that, well, he's not going to do anything, but they want his opinion.
No.
But And then we say, he has given his opinion, and you're saying, well, in a way that they can just say, forget, whatever.
No. I'm saying that he has the ultimate.
Which way do you want it?
Hey, John, where should I hang this picture in my house? But in the end, I'm going to hang it wherever the fuck I want.
No.
But I want your opinion.
He has the ultimate overall idea of what's going to happen, but someone else accomplishes it in a way that's good.
I think...
Do you think The Phantom Menace could have been made a good movie if someone else would have directed it and casted it and that kind of stuff?
I think for sure the cast, but I mean
George Lucas has the idea. This is what the character is going to do. This is what the character is going to do. You decide how the character does that and how they reach that point in a good manner that's good on film.
But for me, it goes back to my original point in being that I think the reason the original trilogy succeeds is because George Lucas sets the tone, sets the characters, and all of that in Star Wars, and then going forward, they let somebody else direct it. So do I think The Phantom Menace, let's say he directs The Phantom Menace, right? Yep. And it's still the same movie that we know today. Terrible, stupid plot, doesn't make any sense.
Or M. Night Shyamalan directs
dumb. It. And then I think, but I think
Anakin's dead.
Well, hold on. I think it's more forgivable for him to make a shitty movie and then turn it over to another director to do Attack of the Clones. Then I think the prequels would have been different. I'm not saying that if somebody would have taken over, if it would have been... Because Lawrence Kasdan directed Empire, right?
Correct.
And Anthony McDaniel directed Jedi?
Richard Marquand.
Richard Marquand, that's right. So I think, and not necessarily someone like Lawrence Kasdan, but like you could turn it over then, you could turn Attack of the Clones over to another director. I mean, that director is still going to have to work with everything that Lucas established in Phantom Menace. The same way that Rian Johnson had to, he threw everything out the window that JJ did in Force Awakens, but he still had to address it.
Which is stupid. I don't know why they didn't keep the same director for all three movies.
I think.
I don't think JJ wanted to do.
I think you always.
Why the fuck would you sign on for the first movie if you're not going to do all three?
Look at the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been successful. Joe Johnston directed the first Captain America movie. It's a solid, underrated movie. Then they bring in a different director to take a different take on the character, and they create the second best movie in the MCU, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the Russo brothers. Then they let the Russo brothers keep Civil War and all of that stuff. I think that argument can be made if that director, let's take Guardians of the Galaxy for example. I mean, that's not three movies, but James Gunn obviously, and I don't know if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy or either one or two, but James Gunn has a clearly distinct storytelling and comedic timing to his movies. It's not going to feel right if somebody steps in to that second film and directs it, even though I think the second film is lesser.
The biggest example of that, as you look at Lord of the Rings or like Harry Potter. Now, Lord of the Rings, I get, is different. They had everything in front of them. They shot it all at once and released it 3 times. But look at Harry Potter. Harry Potter's shotgun with all these different directors. How much better would it have been if there was one director? I get it. It's hard with 7 movies, but if one director, one vision, throughout everything. Because you look at like 1 and 2 are vastly different than 3.
I think fatigue
vastly different than 4, which I understand.
It's like what John was saying, that JJ doesn't want to do 3, because at what point do you say, okay, this is fine, I'm doing this? Like it's why I have a hard time believing that David Yates on a level that we are. I have a hard time believing David Yates is going to direct 5 Fantastic Beasts movies.
I get it.
They're going to switch directors after this.
How do you get burned out of Star Wars?
It's a big budget film. They're exhaustive. You have a giant corporation overlording over you. Look at like Joss Whedon.
You know what though?
But hold on.
Let me know when they stop paying him.
But let me make this. That's not. It doesn't become at that point. If you have somebody.
I don't think J.J. Abrams is concerned about his financial situation.
He's not hurting for money. He's not hurting for money.
Let me make this point, and then you guys can take. I'll let you guys kind of take the discussion wherever you want to go, because I don't want to just talk about things that I want to talk about. But Joss Whedon directs The Avengers, right? Yep. Kills it. It's a great film. Then he directs Avengers: Age of Ultron. Polarizing. I like the movie.
Good movie.
But after Avengers: Age of Ultron, he said, I don't want to do another one because these are exhausting. Because not only are you dealing with as oftentimes a huge shooting schedule, like a 6-month shooting schedule of constant action sequences and constant all of this, and you're worrying about fitting it into a larger universe, and then you have Disney looming over you saying, we want somebody like Kathleen Kennedy. Like, I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy's on set. I would imagine she is, if she really wants. But not all the time. But I think she would probably. It's the same thing with, I'm sure Kevin Feige does with Marvel. Is like, yeah, he's probably not on set all the time because they're worrying about future films, and he's casting or doing whatever, or working on deals, but at the same time, you still have Disney saying this needs to be this way, so we can market it this way, and it's the same thing. So that's why I think a lot of you see this a lot of times that these guys don't direct. Lord of the Rings is an exception because obviously he shot those back to back.
Shot them all at once.
Yeah, they shot them as one film.
Yep.
I think with how much is at stake now, with how much movies cost, we still don't know what the production budget of The Last Jedi was. I would imagine it was in the $300 million.
Flip side, why couldn't they have shot the Star Wars movies that way?
Because I think it's a little different because I think they use it as I think a lot of these big tentpole movies use a marketing strategy of let's give them this taste and then 2 years later we'll give them another taste.
Which is
and
fine.
They'll build up that expectation.
You don't have to distribute them year after year, but what is stopping them from developing the script all at once? This is what's going to happen.
Well, I think they have a general idea of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and JJ is an executive producer,
right?
Yeah. So I mean, he had the idea.
He had a hand in The Last Jedi. He didn't direct it, but he was part of it. And I'm sure that going into The Force Awakens, they had a general framework of what was going to happen.
I would hope so.
I guess my overall point to your point,
they're not winging it.
Yeah, exactly. I think my overall point to your point of why don't they have somebody stay. I think it's because of the pressures and the situation of just exhaustive. Because like I mentioned, the shooting schedule, not only are they shooting for 6 months of principal photography, they're going back to do reshoots on all of these big movies. Sure. Not because the movie's terrible or whatever, just because reshoots are built into that schedule of shooting those movies. So that's another 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever. You have to think about this.
Look at that. I mean, look at M. Night Shyamalan. Okay, the success he had early. And how long he's hung around the business. You make these 3 big Star Wars blockbusters, you can make as many indie films as you want for the rest of your life.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. And J.J.
M. Night Shyamalan made a couple good movies.
J.J. Abrams has not made an indie movie, though. I mean,
you know what I'm saying, though. J.J. Abrams, for the rest of his life, can make whatever fucking movie he wants.
Everybody's motive.
He's got the, he's got the pedigree to do whatever he wants for the rest of his life.
You don't know that J.J. Abrams is like, I need to make an assload of money right now, so I can just go do whatever I want for the rest. That's probably not what is.
And even look at Rian Johnson. He had been making smaller films his entire career, and a lot of these guys who get these big tempo projects, they do smaller movies almost as an audition to get these bigger jobs. I mean, look at Spider-Man: Homecoming. John Watts. He made a really small film called Cop Car. They saw it. They think this guy's got what it takes to tell this story, and they bumped him up to the big leagues. And
sometimes it goes the other way. Look at Scorsese.
I would say Scorsese. Yeah, I don't think
Silence.
Yeah,
that would never have gotten made if he had not been an A-list director.
Scorsese. That movie would have gotten made eventually. Scorsese's been an A-list director.
Would it have gotten made with Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson, and that fuckface from Spider-Man?
It's all about timing too. That's the thing. But I don't think that's an apt comparison because Scorsese has been an A-list director for 4 decades. Mm-hmm. I mean, he broke out with Taxi Driver. Yeah, Scorsese's my favorite director, so we can.
Right, but what I'm saying is, you talk about like the fatigue and we want to do other shit. Well, you make these 3 good Star Wars movies, you can make whatever you want for the rest of your life.
But at some point,
because you're going to be the dude that directed the 3 awesome Star Wars movies.
But that's the problem, though. Is like if I'm directing this one movie and it's exhausting, like J.J. Abrams said it was an exhausting process to direct Force Awakens. Hey, why would he want to go through that again 6 months later? Because think about this. Last Jedi came out in December.
Let me know when he stops paying him.
Theatrical run ended in, I don't know,
February,
March, something like that. And now in I think August they started shooting 9.
Look at the original trilogy, though.
So not only are you directing this movie, but while you're directing the movie, you're in the process of developing that next movie because you have 3-4 months to prepare for that before you start shooting again.
You're grinding it out for a couple of years. It's something that you could be remembered for 30, 40, 50 years. Look at the original Star Wars movies.
But it would be like you working an entire month straight and then having 3 days off and then working another entire month straight.
It's funny you say that because that's actually what I did.
But that's what I'm saying. And isn't that exhausting? Don't you want to?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
But if that got me international fame for the next 50 years,
these guys aren't doing it for the fame.
But everybody's motives for what they do are different, Max, and that's what you're.
Yeah. He isn't Michael Bay.
I'm not saying
that Michael Bay is a terrible fucking director.
Just saying maybe that's not something that.
And I get it. J.J. Abrams has been a successful producer and director before this. I'm not saying that's why he's doing it, but from the argument that, well, it's exhausting for him. Well, if I can do something for a year and a half that's exhausting, it's going to give me 50 to 70 years of fucking fame, I'm going to do it.
I would say the job of a director is more exhausting than the job of any other person. And again, I've never been on a film set.
Being a showrunner is pretty fucking hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. The director is responsible for everything. They're responsible for setting up shots. They're shooting for 12 hours
Who gets paid the most?
A day sometimes.
Who gets paid the most?
The actors.
And the director.
No. Robert Downey Jr. made $50 million to be in Avengers Infinity War. Do you think the Russo brothers got paid $50 million to direct
they get paid?
Fuck no. I have no idea.
Well, look it up.
It wasn't $50 million.
What was the name? The Rooster Brothers?
Or the Russo brothers.
The Rooster Brothers.
Sounds like the Rooster Brothers.
That.
But let's talk about other things. Like, I don't know, like what else do you guys want to talk about in regards to Star Wars? Because I mean,
how about let's talk about the rumor that Jar Jar Binks is secretly a Sith.
What rumor?
No. We're gonna just forget Max ever said that.
That's a real fan theory going around. By the way, someone has put together videos of him like making jumps and stuff.
You think the Revolt of the Last Jedi was bad?
I can't find Rooster Brothers.
I said Russo.
Yeah, why don't you lay off the juice there?
I like that Rooster Brothers. Russo Brothers. Okay.
Well, I think the overall thing that we're talking about here is this is such a big pop culture phenomenon.
What was the question about them?
How much did they get paid to make Avengers Infinity War? Not any other movie, because obviously Avengers Infinity War is the biggest movie they've ever done, and that movie's budget probably had to be $350-400 million.
Money.
If Robert Downey Jr. is making $50 million to do that movie, I would imagine the budget is astronomical, because there's not small names in that movie, you know?
Right.
There's fairly solid actors. Chris Evans, I'm sure, is still commanding a big chunk.
They made $750 million.
Can you imagine?
No, that'd be sweet.
The budget was $7 billion. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, what else do you guys want to talk about? I mean, like, I'm cool with talking as long as we want to talk about this. I mean, we're at about an hour and a half right now, I think.
Oh, it's Star Wars. People are jerking off fucking talking about this.
Probably.
Shit.
Maybe they do. Maybe there's like a...
Fucking weirdos.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm so disillusioned now with all this Star Wars stuff. Just because the fans are so obnoxious and because it's just like, I don't care anymore. Just show me the movies. I'll go see the movies. You have my money. You might have my money multiple times if it's good and I have time.
I think moving forward, a lot of what we're going to see in Star Wars over the next 10 years is going to come down to the taste in the mouth of the fans after Episode 9 is done.
I agree. I think it's crucial.
Because after The Force Awakens came out, it was we hit the ground running.
They were planning
everybody loves us. We're going to do spin-offs. We're going to try to do 2 movies a year. We're going to announce this trilogy. We got another trilogy. We're going to do a live-action TV show. Yeah. And then Last Jedi happens and silence.
Yeah.
So well, I think they're just biding their time.
Welcome to the Real Takes Guide to Ethics regarding Star Wars. Okay, rule number 1. Did you like the Star Wars movie? If no, is it okay to tell an actor to kill themselves? No. Is it okay to tell them you think they should get raped on the subway?
It goes back to the overall theme of the
No.
It goes back to the overall theme of the Real Takes podcast.
Would you tell your mother
this?
Dick. Yes, don't be a dick.
That's the theme of the Real Takes podcast. We've covered that several times.
You know, there's a lot of movies I don't like. There's a lot of things. I don't like the Ent scenes in Lord of the Rings. Am I calling up the Ents being like, fucking chop yourselves down? I'm not telling them that. You know?
I mean, they're not real.
They're trees, so, Riley.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They're trees. They're trees.
They don't have feelings.
They're not fake! But, you know, the thing is, though, okay, you know, they're doing a job.
Yeah.
They're getting paid to do a job. If someone said, hey, I want you to be Jar Jar Binks' brother in Episode 9, I'd be like, fuck yeah.
And the fucked up
where do I get signed up for this suit? Like,
the fucked up thing about all of this hate and the racism and the just awfulness of all these people, they're taking this
Republicans.
Job because obviously they pay a lot of because they get paid a lot of money to do it. I'm sure that's one of the motivating factors. I mean, money,
you think?
Money is money. They do it because they like to do this job. They love to act. They want to be in these
Who
movies.
wouldn't want to be in Star Wars?
Can I talk?
Fuck off. No, you talk a lot. Anyway, John.
Nobody heard of Kelly Marie Tran before, maybe some people did because they saw her in a show. But nobody heard of Kelly
She wasn't
Marie
a mainstream star.
Exactly.
Right.
Nobody heard of Kelly Marie Tran before.
Neither was Daisy Ridley either.
No. And then she's in the movie. I think she's great in the movie. I think Daisy Ridley's great in the movie.
She's good in Murder on the Orient Express too.
Yeah, I thought she was solid in that movie.
I haven't seen that movie.
I
heard mixed
it's okay.
reviews.
It's
It
boring.
was okay, but Kenneth Branagh's good. She's good. Anyway,
Moving on.
Yep.
No, they're doing this for our entertainment. They're doing this to entertain us. They are not doing it because
We're not
they
for
want to
entertainment.
They want to affirm. And I'm not saying dance, clown, dance. Like, I'm not saying that, like, they
Make
only...
me a bicycle, you clown!
I'm not saying they only do it to entertain us. I'm saying that's one of the factors that they want to be entertainers. They want to be in these movies. That's the fucked up thing for me. Is like, they're doing it to entertain you. And just because you didn't like it, now you have to say hurtful, awful things to these people. It's like, I really do think sometimes people forget that these people walk among us. Maybe they get paid 50 times more than you get paid.
They've got lightsabers.
They walk among us. These are people. And just because they ruined, I'm doing air quotes, ruined your fucking favorite movie franchise does not mean you get to fucking be a racist dick.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people who they see stars or they see athletes, they see anybody who's famous, and they don't. It's almost like they get seen as not human. Like they don't have
it's
lives.
Like fantasy,
they don't have families.
It's like fantasy
they're,
football. Oh, you didn't score 5 touchdowns. I hope you fucking die in a car crash, you
that's
asshole.
exactly the point, though.
Yeah, exactly.
They're disconnected from reality, and they see them as something other than
the pieces
than
of
a
meat.
human.
And that's why it does bug me when...
They see him like Trump sees women.
And that's why it does bug me when people are like... When you see a celebrity talking about politics or something like that on Twitter, it's like, they vote. Why should they not be allowed to talk about it?
Most actors came from nothing.
Yeah,
that pisses me off more than anything. People are, oh, these elitists. You know what? Most actors were fucking working as a waitress job at the cheese factory before they got their acting job.
A waitress job at the cheese factory.
Whatever. They're
the Cheesecake Factory?
Whatever.
Is there
They're
a
waiting
bar
tables.
at the cheese factory?
Probably.
They serve cheese-flavored drinks.
These fuckers came from nothing.
Drier assortment of cheeses.
Yeah, I mean,
these fuckers came from nothing.
This article, I don't know if it wasn't an article, this thing I read about Emma Stone is true. She slept in a car.
A lot of people did.
Months until she got a job consistently working and all of that stuff. So it's like,
So I don't want to hear from the fucking senators that have had a gold spoon in their mouth from both sides of the table. These are liberal Hollywood elitists. Yeah. Most of these motherfuckers slept in their car.
Yeah.
I can tell you how hard it is to last in
Chris
Hollywood.
Pratt.
I've been there.
Granted, it was Hawaii.
I slept in my car in Hollywood.
Chris Pratt was homeless in Hawaii.
I wasn't very talented, so that's why I didn't get a job. But
you did not.
Well, I could have though.
Well,
that
was my audition.
You do whatever. You go sleep in your car in the mountains if you want to.
I've done that.
They probably saw your haircut and they were like, ugh. I don't know about that. I wish we were on video.
Just because my hairline ain't 5 inches up my fucking head.
They probably saw the pubes.
You motherfucker. Also, you know what?
My forehead.
Shout out to Joe Cutler. He's getting some gray hairs up there.
Yeah, Joe's looking a little gray for sure.
He's got the salty look. I like it. Salt and pepper. I was a little turned on.
Salt and pepper? What are they teaching you at Montana?
Salt and pepper, red and gray?
Red and...
Fuck me. I've had a few drinks. Black and gray?
Oh, man. This is going off the rails real quick.
Yeah, maybe we should wrap
this up. That's my expertise.
Yeah.
Derailing.
Anything else anybody wanted to...
yeah, let's address some other things about Star Wars. Have we talked about Jar Jar Binks being a Sith yet?
We're not going to discuss that.
We got Marissa here on the couch.
Marissa's in the house.
I'm not going to indulge you on that.
Why not?
Nobody's going to indulge you.
That's a real fan theory.
Nobody should indulge you ever.
Do you need me to look up the article?
I've seen the fan theory.
I refuse to read
Does it count as a fan theory if it only exists in meme form?
You know what my fan theory is?
At Actor Trivia on Twitter?
My fan theory is that episode 9 is just going to be a porno where Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver just go at it for 2 hours.
Me want to watch this movie.
No offense, if they didn't show Adam Driver's face, I'd be into that. I love him as an actor, not a good-looking dude. Great in Black
My point is that that's my fan theory. That doesn't make it legitimate. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen.
You know, this Matt guy's kind of a douche.
I'm starting to think Matt is Kylo Ren.
I don't know who Matt is.
You seen the Undercover Boss?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I knew it from the moment you threw him into the candy machine.
But yeah, we should probably wrap it up.
Nah, we got more stuff to talk about. Let's talk about more stuff.
Okay. Shit. I don't.
Hot take, and this is gonna piss you both off. Yoda is one of the weakest characters in the Star Wars universe. He single-handedly fucked the entire Star Wars universe up. If he wouldn't have been such a dick to Anakin and would have maybe trained him himself instead of letting some junior league fucking Jedi train him.
Well, I'm going to refer
maybe
to the
this would have been different.
I'm going to refer to the expert, but correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't up to Yoda to train.
Yoda's the leader of the Jedi Council.
But it doesn't matter. They have apprentices. Isn't that how it works? I don't know. I don't know.
Look, so the guy that's going to be the savior of the universe. We've got this guy just came out of college. Yeah, let's put him with him. He's going to do a good job. Yeah.
Well,
fuck.
I think Max is...
Fuck me.
Hold on. Is there a Jedi college?
Well, there's
Jedi Temple University.
There's the Jedi training. I think Max's argument is not that
maybe you don't put him with Ewan McGregor.
It's not that Yoda should have trained him.
It's shit out of this because your levels are off the charts.
Somebody should have put him with somebody more experienced. So he would have been seduced by, ooh, hey, I have a red lightsaber.
I would like to say that I was touched, and I...
ooh, you want to see some Jedi lightning? Fuck.
Max just touched me, and I...
Yoda didn't do a fucking thing. Darth Vader's fucking killing everybody. Yoda's like chilling on this island like, I can't get involved. If I get involved, I will not.
Like, I think what we should do is we should cut this podcast off and we should record a separate drunk podcast.
Fuck Yoda.
Where we just talk about whatever we want.
I agree. Let's do it.
I'm ready. I'm kidding. Maybe.
Fuck you. Let's do it.
Maybe we'll upload like a special.
I think Yoda's a weak ass bitch.
All right.
And let's cut Max off. Rosy cheeks.
Judgmental
I wish we could just like, we're sharing a microphone right now because we're poor, but like this is a makeshift operation we run here at Real Take. So we're gonna turn the mics off for now, but maybe we'll record something.
Oh, we're gonna be back.
We're gonna do it for this episode. John, do you want the people to follow you on Twitter? You want to plug your Twitter account, or you want to do anything like that?
I mean, you could follow me all you want, but it's probably gonna be some sports stuff and.
Republican sports.
Republican sports. That's what I'm into. Only Republican sports.
That's right.
I'm a big hockey fan.
Okay.
What are you saying?
So you can follow myself at Riley Granson on Twitter. You can follow Max at Max Medlin on Twitter. I'm doing some writing for ComingSoon.net. You can read some of my writing there. Just go to the features tab there.
It is good writing. It's good writing.
Max and I,
it's bigly huge writing.
Sober Max and I will have reviews up this weekend for A Star Is Born and Venom, among some other things. Thank you for listening to this episode.
I haven't drank in like 3 months.
Yeah, this is Drunk Max. So
shout out to Billings.
I think that's it. You can listen to us on Stitcher, on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all those different podcasts, YouTube. Which I just realized I forgot to upload our last episode we did.
Holy shit!
I have the video ready to go, but I can. I'll get that done.
Coca-Cola asked me about that.
That's true. Still waiting for sponsors.
We appreciate all the fans, and we appreciate you guys listening to us, especially all the people in Billings. We really appreciate you guys.
If you're still listening,
Megan, we appreciate you.
If you're still listening to Max's drunk ramblings, I'm sorry. We did go a little long this week, but we hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Fuck off.
And thank you to John for joining us.
Get your mic. Oh, god damn. He just put my microphone in his mouth.
Good thing we're not using it, right?
Oh.
That would be a very weird sound effect for him to do.
Max will probably use it later.
Anyway,
if you know what I mean.
This episode has definitely gone off the rails. But again, thanks to John for coming over.
Really? Dingo and the baby.
I'm going to kill you. I will again thank John for coming over and talking Star Wars with us.
Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome back anytime, brother. We'll do when the next Star Wars movie comes out in 25 years.
In like 5 minutes, we're gonna do a Why Does Yoda Suck podcast.
Yeah, we will. We'll have an extra podcast for you guys tonight, and I'll have a few more drinks as well. So
bye.
Thanks for listening this week, and we'll see you guys next time.
You guys are awesome.
Thanks.